professor at Angelo State University in the Department of Kinesiology. I've been lifting for about 25 years, but competing in powerlifting for the last 2 or so. I'll be 38 years old in 3 days. Getting up there in age, I actually registered as a sub-masters in my next meet, so to reduce the competition and just lift with older folks. I've been into lifting since I was, I think, 7 years old. Probably my older brother had a little 20-pound concrete barbell thing, and I would do curls and military presses with it. And I got really serious in middle school. Really to try to go up to the high school gym and lift weights with my older brother as much as I could. And then, obviously, high school football and wrestling, we lifted all the time for off-season training and that sort of stuff. But me and my buddies would go lift at some of the gyms. I grew up in San Antonio, and there's a gym there called Olympic Gym, or used to be called Olympic Gym, but Jill Mills, world's strongest woman, used to work out there, and her husband's name was Milo. We'd look up to folks like that and try to be like them when we got older. It's kind of cool to see some of those older, bigger folks lifting, and it was kind of one of those old, hardcore, dirty, dingy gyms with bodybuilding posters from the 70s like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Tom Platz and those sorts of folks, so we really liked that place a lot. I mean, as a kid, me and my buddies would always look up to Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm sure like every teenage boy that's into training and bodybuilding and that sort of stuff. Now I think the biggest motivating factor for me is I just want to stay healthy. As long as I can, I want to stay as strong as possible. I teach this stuff in class, so I feel like if I'm not living what I'm teaching, it's not realistic. I think it would connect better with my students if I'm actually engaged in some of the stuff that I talk about. I used to be really into distance running and ran a few half marathons and one 50K ultra marathon. So kind of I was not very competitive at running, but I've always been much more interested in lifting weights. So it kind of spanned the spectrum of fitness. But I really just try to live what I teach more than anything else, so that I'm more realistic in class. I think if I could go back and tell myself what to do would have been better was a lot of nutrition advice. As a teenage kid, you don't really pay too much attention to nutrition, and I knew a little bit about it. Like all the bodybuilders were eating chicken breasts and rice and broccoli as kind of the go-to bodybuilding meal, but I feel like I would have gotten a lot more out of training if I would have just eaten more calories, period. I had always struggled getting heavier. I was a real skinny kid in middle school. Grew kind of tall quickly and then stopped growing in 8th grade, so I was tall and skinny. And just for football more than anything else, was trying to put on weight and wouldn't really eat as much as I probably should have eaten, as much as I could have eaten to put on weight as fast as possible. So biggest thing would have been nutrition stuff, but I was always kind of into it. And I worked, one of my first jobs was actually at a health food store, health food / grocery store, kind of like a Whole Foods, but it was a local one. It's called Sun Harvest Farms. So we had like a supplement shop within the store itself, so I'd go over there and talk to the salesman over there and kind of learn about all the latest supplements, like when creatine first came out and when the first pro hormones came out. I was all over that stuff and spending all my paychecks on all the supplements I could get back in the day. So most of it has just been eating more, I think. Eating more calories and trying not to rely on supplements so much. I don't try to necessarily eat real clean. I'm trying to gain weight right now, so I just try to get in about 4,500 to 5,000 calories a day, and I also kind of shoot for getting around a gram of protein per pound of body weight. So I weigh around 240 now, so I try to get at least 200 grams of protein a day. I can't usually do that with diet alone, so I will supplement with whey protein shakes, 2 or 3 a day typically, to get that up there to where I need to be. And then beyond that, I just try to get in calories any way I can. I have a hard time eating enough to really put on weight. If I have a bad day where I don't eat enough, I'll drop 2 or 3 pounds. It's water weight and just food in my belly weight, but I lose weight really quickly if I don't stay on top of my eating. So just trying to get a lot of calories in and not necessarily too concerned with how clean they are. I'm sure I would lean up a lot more and maybe have a little bit of a six-pack if I could lay off the beer and some of the other junk foods like pizza and hamburgers and that sort of stuff, but those are just easy ways to get in calories. I think the best advice on improving any lift in general is just being consistent. I see a lot of folks working out in the gym, and they'll go in, they might lift for a couple weeks, and then they get busy with life and they don't lift for a little while and they'll come back to it. You just got to make lifting one of the most important things in your life. Obviously, family and school and work probably come first, but lifting needs to be up there in importance. And just being consistent, getting in the gym on a regular basis, at least once a week, but probably, even better would be 2 or 3 times a week, depending on how much your body can take. If I lift too many times a week, I'll start developing some tendonitis and that sort of stuff. The consistency is huge. I think with bench press and deadlift, with all of the competitive lifts, is learning technique, learning how to brace properly, learning how to set everything up properly, and you can go all over YouTube or pick up books or magazines and read about how to get set up for bench press or how to get set up for deadlift. Get a coach or someone that knows what they're doing to kind of critique you, and just practice getting your technique down, because technique plays a huge factor as well. A lot of folks will just kind of lay flat on the bench, or what really irks me is when they pick their feet up in the air. To lift heavy weights, you really have to have a good solid base, and getting your feet kind of tucked up under your hips and really driving through the floor with your heels will make a huge difference in keeping your upper body stable on the bench, and that'll make you a lot stronger. A lot of people with bench press will flare their elbows really wide. That's just kind of a standard. And if they're going for a bodybuilding and trying to hit their pecs a little bit better, that's okay. When you're lifting heavy weights, you want to get your elbows tucked in a little bit more than what most people do. It's also going to save your shoulders in the long run. When you have your elbows real wide, that's really going to irritate your shoulders quite a bit if you get into a lot of volume or a lot of weight there. So again, technique is huge, consistency is huge, and just stay after it. Put on body weight. I guess another thing that a lot of people do is they hear the saying, people major in the minors. They focus too much on single joint movements. A lot of kids will walk straight into the gym here at the university and go straight to the dumbbell rack and start doing bicep curls or kickbacks, or just a lot of single joint stuff that if they just would pick up a heavy barbell and do some of the primary lifts, squat, bench, deadlift, some of the Olympic movements, overhead presses, rows and pull-ups, if they just do some big compound joint movements, they would get so much more out of their workouts. What drives me the craziest is seeing people waste a lot of time doing wrist curls. I kind of joke about that in class a lot, but I mean, just the time spent doing 3 sets of 10 of wrist curls on each side of your wrist, that you could have spent that time just deadlifting. And even if it's not heavy weight, just picking up and holding onto that barbell would have done just as much, if not more, for forearm strength and forearm size. Plus, you're developing strength in almost the whole entire rest of your body almost. So people just need to focus more on compound movements and try to, not to avoid individual joint movements, but don't make those your main exercise. So just to kind of put everything together, be consistent, focus on technique, and do a lot of compound movements as opposed to individual joint movements. So that's probably the number one excuse for why people don't exercise, is that they say they don't have time. Like I said earlier, you have to make exercise, whether it be lifting weights or if you're into running or into whatever it might be as far as fitness goes, you have to make that a priority in your life over a lot of other things. So just sit down and be honest with yourself about what you do to waste time. TV watching, getting on Facebook, getting on Instagram, doing Snapchat. That takes up a lot of folks' time. And if they could put that aside for just, even if it's just 30 or 45 minutes a day, or 30 or 45 minutes 3 or 4 days a week, they could get quite a bit out of that time spent in the gym or out on the trails, hiking or walking or whatever they enjoy doing. But just take an honest assessment of how you spend your time and realize that you can find time to exercise. I went through grad school, both a master's and PhD, with 3 kids, so 3 kids and a wife at home. And still, sometimes you get busy, but you still try to find a couple days, 3 days a week to try to get to the gym and get a little bit of lifting in. If not to improve, at least to try to maintain what you have more than anything else. I got into distance running while I was a doctoral student, so I found the time and made that a priority in my life at that time in my life, when I had a lot of other stuff going on, like school, work, family, extra work on top of regular work, just to try to make ends meet. You still got to make training a priority in your life over a lot of the other stuff that we find that wastes our time in. I'm kind of lucky with the convenience factor of my office is in a gym, essentially. Not everybody has that, so I understand that it can be difficult to try to get to a gym after work, after a long day of work. You try to get home and feed the kids or something and then make it to the gym. Some other things you could do is spend some money on a home gym. You can work out when the kids are there. You don't have to have a whole lot at home. A barbell and some plates and some elastic bands, maybe a pull-up bar. You can do pretty much anything you need to do, even with your kids that are watching, which would be probably a really good, kind of role model for your kids to see you being active. You can take your kids on a walk around the neighborhood, and there's a lot of things you can do, even if you have kids or you have a job. But more than anything else, you just have to make exercise a priority in your life.